Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Money Monday. We're going to be getting started shortly. Let me get my other live set up and we'll be starting at 9 p.m. Okay. Hey, Candy. Welcome to Money Monday. Thanks for joining. All right. We'll see if we have everything set up for now. As long as I don't move, as long as I don't touch anything, I think we'll be fine. Let's give everybody a couple more seconds to hop on and then we'll be getting started. Tonight, we're talking about credit. We're talking about scores and reports. And I'm going to break that down for you, give you some tips on increasing your score, tell you what to look out for, give you some ideas of some things that you can do. Going to talk about the importance of credit scores, so on and so forth. And yeah, we'll be getting started shortly. So let's give people an opportunity to get on. I had to get my tea because you guys know I usually start coughing when it's time to do Money Monday. But that's okay. We're moving forward. Okay, so it's 9:01. We'll go ahead and get started. I have my notes per usual. So yeah, let's talk about it. Let's talk about credit and credit scores, credit reports, so on and so forth. Now, if you don't know anything about credit, what you need to know is historically there were three main credit bureaus: Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. And for years, hey Sharita, welcome to Money Monday. For years, these three credit bureaus had the credit scores on lock and they were just running amok. And so now there are more reports, there are more scores out there, but these are still the three primary entities that report on credit reports and scores. Okay, so anytime we're talking about credit reports, just know we're talking about the major three: Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. Now, what are credit scores used for? A lot of people don't take credit scores serious until they need something, and then they want to get really serious about it. But it's really something that you should be focused on, trying to improve, maintain, increase, clean up while you can before you need something, so that you're not behind the eight ball when it's time to step forward. Credit scores are used for loans, so mortgages, car loans, personal loans, medical loans, that type of thing, credit cards. A lot of insurance companies will run your credit score to see what your score looks like, to see what's on your report, to determine your rates. Jobs are looking at credit scores. The idea behind it is if you cannot maintain your hey, dear manager, welcome to Money Monday. If you cannot maintain your credit rating, you are probably not handling your business. So do we really want to hire you as an employee? That's the thought process. Apartments use credit scores. They're looking to see, if you have evictions, if you pay your bills on time, if you can manage your money, because the number one thing a landlord wants is their money. Okay. A credit score is going to impact your interest rates. And interest rates may not sound like a big thing, but an interest rate, even a 0.5% or a 1%, can mean the difference between a couple thousand or a few $1,000s in payments. They're going to impact your fees. So what fees you're paying for different things, if they're going to charge you late fees when you're late on your credit card, that a lot of times is impacted by your credit score. Your loan amounts and your limits. So let's say you want to buy a house, but you have a credit score that's very low. They're probably not going to loan you as much money. Let's say you need a credit card and you need a $5,000 limit. If you have a low credit score or a terrible credit report, and a terrible credit rating, they're not going to give you that limit that you're looking for. They're only going to give you, say, a $500 or $1,000 limit, and that may not be enough. Utility companies pull your credit report because they want to know, again, do you pay your bills on time? What is the likelihood that we will get our money back if we turn on these utilities in your name? So this is not something that you don't need. A lot of money management folks will tell you, oh, you don't need credit, just use cash. That works for people that have a lot of money. But for the common folks like myself and some of you all, we need credit and we need credit scores. Now, when you think about your credit score in the United States, the credit scores range from 300 up to 850. They can be higher depending on the credit rating that they're using and different factors. But for the most part, when you're talking about your credit score, it's between 300 and 850. Now, there are two different types of credit scores. There's the FICO score and there's the Vantage score. Depending on what you're trying to apply for or what you're trying to qualify for, they may use your FICO or your Vantage score. Typically, the FICO score is the most popular. So that's the one that we're going to be focusing on tonight. Now, let's talk about the ranges. So I've already told you that the range starts at 300 and it goes up to 850. So 300 to 575 is considered poor. 579 is considered poor. 580 to 669 is considered fair. 670 to 739 is considered good, a good credit score. 740 to 799 is very good, and 800 and up is considered excellent. The average credit score is about 700. And typically what we see in the financial industry is that there's not a huge difference or a huge benefit to getting as close to 850 as possible. Typically people who are around that 780, 775, that range and up, they still get the same benefits as someone with the 850 credit score. But what you have to know when it comes to your credit score is the higher your score, the better. Okay. So the goal should always be to get your credit score as high as possible. Now, your credit score is the numerical value of your score, and it's made up of 5 main things. 35% of your credit score is made up of payment history. 35% is made up of the total amount that you owe on your accounts, your credit cards, your mortgage, so on and so forth. 15% is the length of your credit history. So how long have you had credit? You know, are you new to the game? Are you 19, 20 years old and you have a year or two of credit history? Or do you have 15, 20 years worth of credit history? That impacts your score. And then the other 10%, the other 20%, 10 and 10 is credit mix. So what type of credit do you have? Do you have revolving loans or installment types of credit? And then new credit. So how often have you applied for credit, or you on a applying spree where you're applying all over town and you have 15 inquiries? That's going to impact your score as well. Okay. When you put all those together, it equals 100. And I'm going to break that down for you in a second. So like I said earlier, when you think about your credit score, think about it as the numerical value. Now, your credit report is the alpha value, right? Your credit report is going to detail what makes up your score. So it's the accounts that you've had in the details. So if you have a credit card, when you opened it, what your limit is, when you were late, if you were late at all, how long you've had that account, that's all going to be on your credit report. The type of account that you have is, do you have a car loan? Do you have credit cards? Do you have a mortgage? Do you have personal loans? That's all going to be on your credit report. The history, right? Were you late? Did you overcharge on your credit card? Did you have a $1,000 limit and at one point you had a $1,200 balance? That's all going to be detailed on your credit report, and all of that is impacting your score. It's going to have your personal information. So like your addresses, where you've worked, your name, if you've used any aliases, if you've gotten married. Hey, Vanessa, welcome to Money Monday. If you're on here and I haven't shouted you out, it's because I can't see you. I'm sorry. But if you have gotten married, so like I have a maiden name, that's on my credit report. So what did I go by before I got married? Also on your credit report are going to be public records. So if you have been sued and you had a judgment against you, let's say you have a lien against you for whatever reason, you didn't pay your taxes and it went to collections, or you filed bankruptcy, that's all going to be detailed on your credit report. It also lists the total number of accounts you have, how much debt you have with all of those open accounts. Hey, Latori, welcome to Money Monday. Thanks for coming, Vanessa. And any hard inquiries. So who you've applied for credit with and when. Okay, that's all detailed on your credit report. Now, like I said earlier, most people don't think about their credit report or their credit score until they need something. So they're tired of renting, their landlord is going up on the rent, and now they want to buy a house, and now all of a sudden they're looking at their credit report and their credit score. It's time for them to get a new car. They had an accident and they need a personal loan for something. Now they're looking at their credit report. And if you approach your credit score and your credit report in that manner, you're going to be behind the 8 ball, because you're going to have very little time to recover, very little time to fix it, very little time to make updates to get incorrect information off. So start thinking about your credit score and your credit report now, so that when you need it, you'll have it. Now, in order to increase your credit score, you have to focus on your credit report. Okay. Your score goes up based on what's on your credit report. If this is messed up, this is going to be messed up. So you have to make sure that if you're looking to update your credit score, that you focus on the report. Okay. So now I'm going to give you some tips to increase your score. And I think I have 11. So let's go through those, and I'll go through those pretty quickly. Let me make sure I didn't miss anything. The first thing that you have to do is know what's on there, right? So there are free sites that you can go to, like annualcreditreport.com, where you can get a free report. It'll give you the report for all 3 bureaus. It'll tell you exactly what's on there. For everything I listed, the accounts that are on there, your personal information, if you've been late, if you have collections, all of that information will be on your credit reports. So what you're looking for when you're looking at your credit report, and especially if you're trying to raise your score, is accuracy, right? You want to make sure that your name is correct. You want to make sure your address are correct. Any addresses that are on there are accurate. You want to make sure the spelling of your name is accurate. You want to make sure that all of that information on your credit report is accurate. And the reason why you want to do that is because you want to make sure that if it's 35% of your score, what's on there, that it's accurate, that it's right? You don't want them to decrease your score with information that's not correct. So that's the first thing that you want to do. Let me read this note. Okay. The second thing that you want to do is you want to pay your bills on time. So paying your bills on time makes up 35% of your credit score. So you really want to make sure that if you're trying to increase your score, that you're trying to work on your credit, that you're absolutely paying those bills on time, that you get caught up so that it's not continuing to reflect poorly. Now, let's say, for example, you have some negative items on your credit report. Maybe you've had some late payments. There is something that you can send to your creditors called a goodwill letter. And you can just basically explain your situation. You can say, hey, due to COVID, I lost my job and I wasn't able to pay this credit card bill on time. Is there any way you can remove this late payment for whatever reason? Most times they will do it. They'll say, okay, we see that you were on time up until that point. We're going to remove these 3 or 6 or whatever late payments off, and we're not going to hold you to that, right? But you have to make sure that you're current. So paying your bills on time is the second thing that you want to focus on when you are increasing your score. The next thing that you want to do is pay attention to items that are unfavorable. So let's say that you have an old AT&T bill that went into collections and it's $200 and it's tanking your score. Your score is in the 3s. That's a joke, but it's very low. It's impacting your score. What you can do is go to that collection agency and do a pay to delete letter, right? You can send them a letter. You can say, hey, if you delete this off my credit report, I will pay the full balance, the full $200 and something balance, and then wait for their response back to you via a letter. Okay. Now you have to go to the post office. You may have to go to the library and print some information, but if you can get that collection off your report, hey Florence, welcome to Money Monday. If you can get that collection or that unfavorable item off your report, it's going to increase your score dramatically. These letters are all over the internet. All you have to do is Google them. That's it. Google the letter, input your information, put it in an envelope, mail it off, and there you have it. Most times collection agencies, they just want the money. So if you have a collection, go ahead and send them the letter and ask them to remove that collection. The fourth thing that you want to do to increase your score, and this goes into the security aspect I talked about a few weeks ago, is to lock your credit down. Freeze your credit report, freeze your credit scores, freeze all of that. Because when you freeze your credit report, nobody can get credit in your name. I remember I was trying to get a bank account one time and my credit reports, all 3 bureaus were frozen. I couldn't even open up a bank account. And I love it because I have more control over what's happening with my credit report. If I want to apply for credit, all I have to do is thaw the freeze and temporarily take it off from this date to this date. Or you can remove it. It's free. It's easy to do. You do it all online. It's not really much to it. All you have to do is Google Experian credit freeze, TransUnion credit freeze, Equifax credit freeze, and it's frozen, and that's it. The fifth thing that you can do to increase your score is focus on debt elimination. The amount of debt that you have and your utilization makes up about 30% of your score. So if you're trying to increase your credit score, you want to get your utilization down under 30%. Okay. So if you have $1,000 credit card, you should only be charging $300. If you really, really, really need to get your score up fast, focus on getting that utilization under 5%. So you're literally spending $30. Is that $30? Give me a second. 5%. You're literally spending like $50 on $1,000 credit card. Okay. So that's something easy that you can do to raise your score pretty quickly. And then 10% of your score, like I said, is what you apply for, right? It's with the credit that you're applying for. So a good way to increase your score fast is to limit the amount of credit that you're applying for. Now, of course, if you're shopping around for a car loan, you have a set amount of time that you can apply for credit where it doesn't impact you negatively. If you're shopping around for a mortgage, you usually have, I think it's like 45 days to apply for credit where it's not impacting you negatively. Even if you apply for 10 mortgage lenders, all of those 10 mortgage lenders will count as one inquiry. So that's what I'm referencing. I'm not referencing, your credit card is maxed out and now you're applying for 10 different credit cards trying to get more money. You don't want to do that. You want to limit the amount of credit that you're applying for. Okay. The next thing that you can do to build your score is to pad your file. So if you're one of those folks who you don't have a ton of credit history, maybe you're just starting out, maybe you're rebuilding, there are things that you can do. One of the things that you can do is get a secure credit card where you send in $500 to a reputable place, a bank, a credit union. You send them $500 and that maintains and secures your credit card. So you can only spend up to $500. They also have Experian Boost, where you can start reporting your rent and utility payments, which are traditionally not accounted for when you are talking about your credit report and your credit score. So by taking those rent payments and those utility payments and having those count on your credit report, that in turn increases your score. They have something called self-lender, where you basically say, okay, I want to borrow $10 a month for this time period, and it shows up as a recurring like credit card payment. So it almost looks like you have a credit card with this company, but you don't have a credit card with the company. That's just how it's reporting. But it's a good way to build your credit, and then after that time period, let's say it's 6 months, let's say it's a year. I think they do it a year. The last time I checked, you get that money back. So you would get $120 or $500 or however much you chose to elect for the self. And then lastly, to build your score, you can become an authorized user on someone's credit card. So if you're choosing someone and you're going to ask them to be an authorized user, there's a couple things that you have to know. The first thing is make sure it's somebody that's reliable and responsible and has good credit. If you get added to somebody's credit card that doesn't pay their bills, that's going to reflect negatively on you and that's going to tank your score. But let's say you get on your great uncle or your grandma's or whoever, or your sisters, whoever it is, their credit card, you're added as an authorized user, their utilization becomes your utilization. It's reflecting positively on your credit report as well as theirs, and they don't have to give you a card. They can just add you as an authorized user and continue to keep their card, so they don't have to worry about you running their card up, and you're reaping the benefits from that. Okay. 8, if you have old accounts that are paid off, don't close them, because again, 10% of your credit score is based on the length of your credit. So if you have an old Home Depot card that you're not using anymore and it's 10 years old, just leave it, right? Leave it there, and let that history keep building your score up. Number 9 is consolidate your debts. Now, number 9 is tricky because if you haven't mastered how to consolidate those debts, if you haven't mastered your spending, if you haven't mastered your money, you're going to struggle with this. A lot of times what people do is they consolidate their debts and then they go out and they recharge on all those cards, or they go out and they reaccumulate all this additional debt. So now you have debt times 2. Okay, so use that tip sparingly. You have to know yourself. You have to know your spending habits. You have to know how you operate to determine if that's going to work for you. 10 is to mix it up. So your credit mix accounts for 10% of your credit score. So you can get a secure credit card, as I stated earlier. You can get a small personal loan. Maybe you're doing like $100 or $500 personal loan that you're going to pay back on time to get that credit history and get those on-time payments. They also have Affirm payments, and they have a couple more where you'll go to a website and you'll say, hey, let me buy these shoes, or let me buy this, whatever it is, let me buy this purse, and I'll pay you back over 5 pay periods. That can increase your score as well. And then again, mix those installment lines of credit, so like car loans or mortgages, and the revolving credit, so like credit cards. Mix all of those up because that's going to help increase your score. Okay, my final tip is number 11. Now, this tip is going to be controversial, but let me explain myself. If you feel like you're in a position where you will not be able to pay these bills, you will not be able to get, your feet up under you, it's very difficult, it's very hard, your last and absolute last effort should be to file for bankruptcy. Okay, let me explain myself. The 1% do it all the time. Donald Trump has applied for bankruptcy probably like 7 times. No lie. Google it. Millionaires on average, there are millionaires who have filed bankruptcy 3.5 times. You have these companies who are filing for bankruptcy. They know they're going to file for bankruptcy when it suits them, but they will still take your money for your gift cards and turn your gift cards off. Okay. So if this is something that you feel like you can't get from under this debt, you need help, you need resources, like you cannot pay for the mistakes that you made when you were 20 years old for the next 15, 20 years, file for bankruptcy. Let me say this, however, it should not be something that's taken lightly. A bankruptcy, depending on the type that you file, will stay on your credit report for 7 to 13 years, and that could adversely impact you as well. So that's something that you really have to make sure is the best solution for you so you can start over. But if you're going to do that, be clear that you have to come up with a new financial way to manage your money, because if you don't, 5 years later, you're going to be in the same boat, and we don't want that. Okay, those are the tips. Let me give you some more tips. Beware of quick fixes. Okay, if somebody tells you that they can increase your credit score 100 points in the next 60 days, they're probably not telling you the truth. It's probably going to be fraudulent. So there is no quick fix. Depending on your situation, you can fix your credit within 12 months. Now, it's going to be different for everybody, depending on how much you owe, depending on, how long you kind of been slipping. It's going to depend on that. But for the most part, you can fix your credit within 12 months. I've done it before. Good credit is a byproduct of good money management. When you pay your bills on time, when you manage your money well, when you are making sure you're living within your means, your credit score is going to go up, because that's going to be impacted, and that's going to impact the way you handle your money and the way you pay your bills. And then lastly, my number 1 tip, if you don't remember nothing else I said, just remember this. Don't ever co-sign for anybody. Okay? Not a boyfriend, not a girlfriend, not a friend, not a cousin, nobody. If you think that I'm not telling the truth, just Google it. I co-sign for this person. If you think that you want to see some more people who are telling you their sad stories about how their ex-boyfriend that they thought that they were going to marry, they co-signed for a car from him, and he has to pay the car note in 6 months, what can they do? Join some of these credit groups and just search for a co-sign. Co-signing is the devil. If somebody cannot afford to maintain their lifestyle, if they can't afford something, a car, a house, a motorcycle, a boat, whatever it is, they need to save their money until they can afford to do it on their own, but do not co-sign for anybody. Okay? That's all I have. I hope you guys enjoyed these tips. Florence said, what about Lexington Law? What is that? I've heard about Lexington Law, Florence. Let me do some research on them. I don't want to speak on what I think I heard because I'm not 100% sure, but let me do some research and I'll inbox to you what I find. I'll look on Google and see what I find. But yeah, let me just do some research before I speak on them. Michelle says she agreed with that. Co-signing for someone will cause bad blood. It absolutely will. I've seen people take out loans for people and then fall out because they didn't want to pay them back. All kind of foolishness. Just don't do it. Okay. I hope you guys enjoyed Money Monday. Next week, I think I'm going to talk about our money mindset and how that impacts our money. More than likely I will. I love you guys. Thanks for joining. If you have any questions or anything that you want to see, just inbox me and I will see you next Monday. Have a good one. Bye.